Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Salam sejahtera. All of you are joining us for this session online from Malaysia and as well as all over the world. My name is Raja Badrunnizam Raja Kamzaman. I will be your moderator for this session on exporting to ASEAN, current opportunities and challenges. Joining me today are Market Trade Commissioners from Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam and Myanmar, who will be sharing the latest market information, the opportunities, the challenges in their respective markets in the context of the current COVID-19 pandemic in ASEAN. So allow me firstly to run through the flow of the session. After my introduction of the four trade commissioners from the four countries, I will be giving a short brief and some information on insights on the importance of the ASEAN market, as well as the opportunities in the region and the key factors that make ASEAN one of the fastest growing economies in the world. After that, each of the presenters, the speakers, will be given 20 minutes to speak on their markets, and to be followed by the Q&A session. We'll usually start around 12:50, and then I will wrap up the session before 1 o'clock. Okay, before 1:25. So the Q&A will last about 25 minutes. All right. So let me start the session by introducing our first speaker from Indonesia, our trade office in Indonesia. Mr. Harman is our trade commissioner in Indonesia. He has been there since 2018 for the last 2 years, and just a bit of background on Mr. Harman. He has some retail experience before he joined Madrid, and also some management experience with Deloitte Malaysia before he joined Madrid in 2003. So he has some overseas experience before Jakarta, serving as our trade commissioner in Manila, as well as our director for Johor office, and he was the first writer for our office in Johor. So the second speaker, Siti Azlina, who is our trade commissioner based in Manila, Philippines. She has some overseas experience working in our office in New York as well as in Milan, and has also served in our strategic department in Madrid, and she holds a degree in economics. So she will be talking about the market in the Philippines, an island-based market, one of the largest market in ASEAN. Let me move on to the third speaker, Mr. Rafi Muhammad Razi is our current trade commissioner based in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. He has been with us for the last 15 years, and he was also posted to Johannesburg, South Africa, and also to Johor office. So he'll be talking about the opportunities in the fastest growing market in ASEAN, which is Vietnam, and he also covers countries of Cambodia and Laos. And finally, our last speaker for the day will be Mr. Azhar Muhammad. He is based in our office in Yangon, Myanmar. His overseas experience was in Dubai as well as in Vietnam, and he was also posted as our director in Sabah. So he'll be talking about the expanding market in Myanmar, which is our last frontier market, and the opportunities over in that country. So before I start giving the floor to the speakers, let me start off this session for 5 minutes to share with you some of the prospects of doing business in ASEAN. Why ASEAN is an important market for Malaysia? ASEAN is the 27% of our global trade is with the region. So ASEAN is our biggest market in the world, and ASEAN is connected internationally. Within ASEAN, we have the ASEAN Economic Community, we have the ATIGA. For those companies who have done business in ASEAN, you may be familiar with the Form D, where you have enjoy 0 to 5% tariff when you trade in ASEAN. It is also connected through the countries in ASEAN connected through the ASEAN Master Plan, And for intra-ASEAN trade, ASEAN is also signatories to other FTAs with countries like Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, India, China. And in 2009, one of the biggest achievements of ASEAN was to sign the ASEAN e-commerce agreement. The ASEAN economies want to drive growth of trade within ASEAN through e-commerce. So the ASEAN e-commerce agreement provide a good platform for more companies to interact and trade with the ASEAN through online, through the e-commerce agreement. The other factors that make ASEAN an important market for Malaysia and around the world is a huge market, 650 million population, and ASEAN is also the third largest market in Asia. And at the same time, in terms of the population, more than 77% of ASEAN population is below the age of 35. So we have a very young labor force and a growing middle class. So the young people in ASEAN will normally be the trendsetters in the future. Total trade in ASEAN was 2.8 trillion, and the foreign direct investment coming into ASEAN amounted to 154.7 billion in 2018. It is currently ASEAN the fifth largest economy in the world, and you can see many companies who are investing into ASEAN, coming out from China and all over the world, Europe and so on. Two countries in ASEAN, Singapore and Vietnam, have signed the EU FTA, so you can see more foreign companies investing in this region. And also, according to McKinsey, ASEAN by 2050 will be the fourth largest economy in the world. In terms of growth, ASEAN growth in 2019 was 4.9%, higher than the global growth, which is around 3%. So, and then the growth over the last 8 years about 5.4%. So, to conclude my presentation on ASEAN, the key points I want to put forward here is that ASEAN is an important trading partner for Malaysia and also for the world. It offers a huge market and huge opportunities to do business in this region. It has well connected to each other in terms of the trade agreements that we have within ASEAN and also outside ASEAN. And also the sectors opportunities which you can see on the screen: construction, infrastructure, healthcare, automotive parts, F&B and so on, which will be elaborated more by the four speakers which I introduced just now. So my last slide for me to show is the number of Malaysian companies who has invested in ASEAN. If you can see on the screen, the large companies, Malaysian large companies like Maybank, the banks, the construction services, the oil and gas, has also made ASEAN their business destination. Yeah? So they have expanded their presence and captured a share of the growing economy of ASEAN. Okay. So thank you very much. Now I would like to start off this session. Let me invite the first speaker for our session today, Mr. Harman from our office in Jakarta. So he will be sharing some insights on the opportunities in Indonesian market, as well as the challenges of doing business in the huge market in Indonesia. So over to you, Harman.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Raja Bhasan, for the kind introduction. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, so today I'll be presenting on export opportunities into Indonesian market. So for this particular presentation, I'll be covering some brief country profile about Indonesia, current market development in Indonesia as well during COVID time, sectors of opportunities, challenges, and some success story that able to conclude in Indonesian market. Next, please. So I'll be starting with the importance of Indonesian market. Why is Indonesia so important to us, Indonesian businesses? Because one of the main reasons is because of the market potential. They are the fifth largest economy in the world, with substantial rising middle class in the country. They are the largest economy in ASEAN, which consists 1.1 trillion GDP, with the largest population in ASEAN. I think it's more than 40% of Asian population, which is about 267 million population. They are the biggest market for halal products because in the country alone, 80% are Muslim within the population. They have about 7,000 islands cut across the country. It shows how diversified they are in terms of geographical location. They are non-homogeneous. Every province have their own sets of rules and regulation that we have to comply. And it is forecasted in 2030 they'll be becoming the fifth largest economy in the world. And by 2030 also, they're going to be providing at least about 135 million consumers for all of our products in the world. And the interesting part is now I think about 180 million population will be at the productive age in 2030. It shows how the important the market are to us. And I think it's being known by everybody. Indonesia shares a lot of similarities with Malaysian. Even some of us are coming from Indonesia in origin. Even me as well. I'm one of the Javanese that my ancestor traveled from Indonesia to Malaysia. But anyhow, there's a bit of different, even though there's the similarities, but there will be a lot of different as well. And the good thing is they have similar tastes and preferences towards food and others. So it provides a huge opportunities for us. There's a lot of border trade activities ongoing because we are sharing borders from Sumatra, from Sabah, from Sarawak, and so on. It provides good opportunities for us to do trade. There's a multiple trade entry point within Malaysia and Indonesia, which is I think even during the old days being utilized by traders to do business from there. Even some of us still have relatives in Indonesia. This can be one of the opportunities for us to be connected and do business with them as well. And historical relationship, even some of the Malaysian Sultanate covering area as well as like Riau, Banten, and so on. There's a lot of historical relationship. And as just for information, that we have a huge investment in Indonesia. In 2019 alone, we are the sixth largest investor, which in realization is amounting 1.36 billion in terms of investment. For the last 10 years, we already conclude about USD 12.63 billion in terms of investment. And most of our investors are into transportation, into plantation, which I think it's being known by everybody that even palm oil plantation started from our point of investment. And there's a lot of construction companies doing business here. We have Runhill, we have what we call that, Mohiba, YTL, and so on. Food industries, we have a lot of investment as well. And I think chemical, not to forget about chemical and pharmaceutical products. It's been substantial, one of the key point of investment for us in the country. Next, please. So I'll be talking a bit about some economic data. Our trade with Indonesia in 2019 stood at 6.8 billion, which is uh, import overtake export in terms of those trade relationship, because we are importing about 1.36 billion in total, whereas our export is at 7.4 billion. And looking at our ranking, it shows that how significant Indonesia towards our trade, because they are the fifth largest trading partner, they are the sixth largest export destination, and they are the seventh largest source of import. And major products export to Indonesia, mainly chemical products, petroleum, machinery, appliances, and parts, while for import, major on palm oil, petroleum products, iron and steel, more on the what we call that, the commodities kind of importation. Next, please. Okay, we'll be talking about current market development between Malaysia and Indonesia. Next. I think it's Indonesia is like Malaysia as well. Even they are much worse in terms of heavily hit by COVID up to 10 April 2020. Uh, they started having lockdown since 10 April 2020, and up to now they have about total deaths of 7,750. While in Jakarta, for the last 3-4 days, they have about 1,000 over new cases. There's no sign of what do you call that reduction in terms of the first wave. GDP for the first quarter, they able to register 2.5% GDP, while for the second quarter, it's on negative at 5.32%, and it's expected to go down further for the third quarter of 2020. However, for the forecast GDP, they'll be ranging around 0.9 to 1.9%, so still on the positive note. And you see that it's heavily affected them because the employment rate is increasing. In July 2020, the unemployment rate is at 7.5% with 4.57 million unemployed, and the inflation rose to 0.1% in August 2020. However, the trade is still ongoing if you look at the data, but it's predicted that it will be much lesser for the third quarter 2020. I think next please. COVID is already known for public. It's already what do you call that, affecting the business communities. Even though there's some measures given by the government with tax discount under the PPH Article 35 from 30% discount to 50%, especially for SMEs, reduce from paying taxes to reorganize their credit terms and so on, but it still affect the public in general. The most affected business will be in wholesale and retail, because most of the malls are closed down for a certain period of time, even though I think they start loosen up the MCO like in Malaysia, but still that most of the business are not able to recover at this point of time. Accommodation and hospitality, I think as per January, I think about 1.5 billion loss in total, which mainly from China, because they are restricting China from entering the country. Most of the all that confirmed package and so on, it's being cancelled. And I think hotel is one of the most badly affected sectors, which I think on March, it's already affecting them up to 40% of the occupancy level, fallen tremendously high. And the airport operators are having losses at about rupiah 2.7 billion. And food service, I think there's no chance for you to hang out, to enjoy your cup of tea or coffee in the shop. Everything is relying on online purchase and so on. Next, please. So I'll be talking about sectors of opportunities. Despite the heavily hit by COVID-19 in Indonesia, e-commerce becoming one of the promising sectors. It's even more robust compared to Malaysia. However, they are facing a lot of issues in terms of delivery, in terms of efficiency, and high taxes. That's one of the challenge in terms of e-commerce. But just to let you know, talking about internet users, they have 150 million internet users, which is consist about 64% of their total population, with 95 million consumers are using smartphone as one of the medium every day. And the penetration age is about 16 to 64. It cut across all generation. The online consumer good purchase, I think just to let you know, the consumer now is consists about 138.1 million number of consumers, and in the market alone, April 2020, the daily transaction increased up to 4.1 million per day in terms of e-commerce transaction. For the first quarter of 2020, you can see there's a lot of demand for products such as beauty, fashion, personal care, and health-related items in the e-commerce platform. Home appliances, suddenly, because you don't have the chance to buy your product physically, so e-commerce is one of the best options. So there's a lot of increase in terms of household appliances. personal care, and so on. And it is predicted that will continue to grow in the third quarter and the fourth quarter as well. Okay, growth sector, if you're talking about e-commerce, for e-groceries, suddenly people reluctant to go out and purchase their daily groceries in the mall. So they are relying on e-commerce to buy your daily products. Beauty and personal care, despite you have to be at home, they still wanted to maintain their what do you call that, the beauty and so on. Beauty and personal care grew about 80% compared to the time that before. And fashion still, you need to buy apparels and so on. Fashion about 40% increase. Electrical and electronic goods at 20%. While there's a huge demand, they noticed about the issue of delivery efficiency and so on. There's a huge demand for e-commerce support services, and even some of the Malaysian companies already invested in Indonesia just to support the second tier logistic service to ensure that they can do quick delivery and efficient. And for your information, compared to Malaysia, they have a lot of homegrown e-commerce platform, and even the top 5 e-commerce platform is run by local, mainly Tokopedia. They have Blibli.com, they have Bukalapak, Shopee, Zalora, and so on. I think just to let you know that despite the the what do you call that, restriction in terms of movement and so on, you still can sell your products direct to Indonesia via e-commerce, because we have Bukalapak and Blibli already having their operation in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, next please. And the next area of sectors of opportunities will be ICT sectors. This is just to support it is already in line with the e-commerce, because digital transformation is one of the main agenda by Indonesian government to support SMEs. Even they at the point they wanted to push all the SMEs, the small businesses and so on, to be digitalized, to be online and so on, just to absorb the impact of COVID-19. And there's a lot of tech-based company in Indonesia that we can have partnership and so on. The drivers mainly because of the consumers, the abundance of consumers, the emerging of middle class. So the amount of money being spent online is getting higher and higher. So opportunities definitely on the cybersecurity, they have issues, even though they are quite advanced in terms of e-commerce and so on. Data secrecy still becoming an issue, because one of the issue being highlighted in the media is about Tokopedia, because the information that they gathered is being hacked by somebody, and they sell it to a third party. So there's a concern about the security of data being kept by all the e-commerce platform. And another emerging market is for the gaming and content. Revenue for mobile games projected to reach about 712 million in 2020, which is this year. And revenue expected to grow at about 1.9% up to 2025, which is a very substantial growth. And user penetration will be at 18.6% in 2020 and able to hit 21.6% in 2025. So everybody stay at home. They try to make themselves happy by playing games and so on. Even application is highly over, because they keep on their communication to social platform and so on. Animation, as you are aware that Upin Ipin is one of the big hit here. Bobo Boy, Omar and Hana is one of the what do you call that, highly watched cartoons in YouTube, and mainly coming from Indonesia. Even some of the kids in Indonesia start talking Malay because they are so much into Upin and Ipin. So they start emulating how Upin and Ipin talking. So products, there's a lot of food and beverages company start using Upin and Ipin as one of the what do you call the image being publicized in their what do you call that bottle. Next, please. So the third one is on building and construction. Building and construction is one of the key driving economies for Indonesia. Before this, it's highly being invested by the GLCs, but because of the recent development, the government decided to lessen the contribution from the GLCs. So now they are really into partnership with foreign entities and so on. Opportunities, you can see there's a lot of opportunities under the long-term development 2005 to 2025, which cover all 24 provinces infrastructure. And the big news is about the relocation of capital Indonesia to East Kalimantan. It is estimated the investment value will reach about USD 33 billion. So there's a lot of projects being handled by the Ministry of Public Works, and some projects are being handled by the provincial government as well. So it's either we go and interact with the federal government, or you can talk with the provincial government. As we had session before, opportunities of investing in infrastructure projects in Jawa Tengah and Kalimantan. It's one of the effort that we're trying to put, because projects are not only centralized on the federal government alone. So this mode of entry, you can JV, we can partner with local companies as well as GSC, because most of the main players are from GLCs. Major projects, you can, I think some of our companies are already embarked into it. We have MRail going into railway industries. There's a lot of projects on LRT, MRT, and monorail, renewable energy, because it's an islanders country. They have in Pulau Jawa, there's no power shortage, but in other islands there's an issue regarding it. Water, wastewater treatment, still there's a lot of to be developed. Every provinces would love to have those kind of investment going to the country, for them to really improve the level of efficiency in terms of water supply and so on. Next, please. And other than that, I think there's a lot of opportunities in fast-moving consumer goods to support the e-commerce industries. I think it can be seen by the growth, as you can see from the slides. The growth, it covers all sectors. You can see about the growth in food and beverages, healthy products. Even though they stay at home, they are very much concerned with the health. They want to consume healthy, to be seen healthy, as well as seen able to maintain their complexity, their beautiness. That's why food and beverages, beauty care, convenient foods, and so on are in one of the products that heavily suggested to embark into. So still talking about FMCG, especially on the food sectors, we have to pay attention into halal certification. It is mandatory for 2024. All products that enter Indonesia should be halal certified. All F&B products have to be BPOM registered. It's like FDA as well. It's compulsory for you. But if you're talking about e-commerce, there's no requirement for you to register BPOM, halal, and other certification. It's only applicable to products that being imported to the country. And some non-food product would require standard national Indonesia registration. Importers have to have import permit and so on. It's common not only in Pulau Jawa, for the rest of the country as well. Please bear in mind, agreement is very important. It's not only applicable for our SMEs, even for the big boys. Sometimes they overlook that the agreement, you have to specify the territorial, the duration agreement, and so on. Because of the geographical landscape of Indonesia, it's almost impossible for importers to cover all over Indonesia. So you have appoint one importers maybe in Pulau Jawa, one importers in Sumatra, to ensure that the distribution is well distributed, as well as the future growth can be captured as well. Next, please. So the key challenges, like I've been highlighting earlier, is about the location of the island. don't put focus too much on Jakarta. But if let's say you are embarking into e-commerce, then Jakarta will be the most suitable place for you to start your business. Where else, Sumatra will be one of the key growth if you are talking about food products, food related product, paste and so on. The taste bud for people from Sumatra is very much similar to us, as well as Kalimantan, Pontianak, very much similar to Sarawak. They were one of the major for that market for our food products. Where else, Pulau Jawa, I think they are more internationalized. They have a lot of importers importing product from other countries as well. So
Maybe.
pretty much. And for talking about cost of setting up business, Pulau Jawa is one of the highest in terms of cost of doing business. I think for you to rent out what do you call that a warehouse and so on is very expensive. But you would consider to have it in Medan, in Pekanbaru, and so on, which the cost is much lower. But in Pulau Jawa, I think most of the investment are going to other provinces as well, like Surabaya, Jogja, and so on. But please do consider, because bordering wise, Sabah, the major market will be in Sulawesi, which is in Makassar. For Semenanjung Malaysia, we can look at Pulau Jawa and Sumatra as well. And for Sarawak, one of the key opportunities is in Kalimantan, especially in Pontianak. Next, please. Guide of doing business. I think some of us already experienced this before. Indonesia is one of the having complex bureaucracy in terms of sign up agreements and so on. It is advised for you to engage with one lawyer, and it is best for you to have lawyer as well in Indonesia, because they are practicing Dutch-based what do you call that law, while us is in what do you call that UK-based kind of uh, law. And it requires patience. Most of the Malaysian companies are having issues with this because they tend to rush into agreement or signing up MOU with the parties in Indonesia. Because Indonesia, even though it's similar like us, Malay and so on, but still, I think in terms of upbringings, the culture and so on, they are very much different. You have to be patient. The important is to build up your relationship before embark into business any business deal. Speaking bahasa Indonesia is very much important, even though Malaysian don't have that problem in terms of communication. But if let's say the party that you are talking to converse in English, please do talk in English, even though the level of English that they're having is very much low, because they are proud of their language skill. So we have to encourage them to do so. Taxation is an issue. They have a very high taxation. Value added tax is about 10%. Import tax is ranging from 0 to 5%. And they have another import tax. They call it import income tax, which is imposed to the importers in Indonesia. So roughly for imported goods into Indonesia is about 20 to 25%. And please bear in mind, you have to strategize what kind of products you wanted to bring in into Indonesian market. If it's too common, that you'll be competing with the local producers. For example, ketchup. Then they have ketchup as well. It's being widely used in all over the country, and you have to have a certain age to compete with the local products. Cost of operation business is quite high. For rental of offices, you have to pay a year kind of rental, not a monthly kind of cost. So it's one of the main burden that we face by Malaysian government. Registration issues, BPOM, SNI and others, it will take longer time for you to be registered. But now I think they're already able to resolve some of the issue. You can do it online. It's not necessary for you to have a local partner, but still, if we have partner to execute in terms of the registration, it will be much better. Next, please. Next, please. Do and don'ts in terms of doing business in Indonesia. I think we have to be very cautious in terms of communication, just to ensure that we're able to portray a very good image of ourselves. be professional, not to rush into making decision. And I think relationship is very much important in terms of concluding business in Indonesia. Even though some of the Indonesian would answer yes, but it's not necessarily yes, because sometimes they are trying to be nice in terms of communicating with us. So bear in mind in that sense. Again, I think talk to us, compete with the local product, very, very important. You have to talk with us as well in terms of your future, what you call that, planning and so on, because we can advise in terms of setting up which are the market that you have to focus on, and this will be one of the key advantage. Digital marketing is very important, and you cannot do digital marketing all the way from Malaysia. You have to be localized, because it's more acceptable for them to you to have those kind of campaign in Malaysia. And the last part is on success story. We have a lot of Indonesian companies in Indonesia. We have Maybank, we have Petronas, and recently Petronas concluded a distribution agreement with the local company, which is one of the few agreement that they have. CIMB Group, they are one of the biggest foreign banks able to set up in Indonesia. YTL, they have projects in hydro power plant in Indonesia. KPJ, they have two running hospital in Jakarta. And the last one, I think it's applicable for all ASEAN countries as well. We have major brands that are able to penetrate Indonesian market. We have Munchies, we have Julies, we have Mr. DIY, we have Aikchong, and other products as well. It shows that Indonesia is not an impossible market for you to penetrate with. As long as you have to set your focus to it, you have to know the priority of your product, which are the market that you are targeting, and long-term strategy is very important. Partner, if you have able to conclude a deal with partner, just bear in mind you can do the diligence, or you can do your own market diligence. You can do background checkup as well, just to ensure that you won't be caught up in any dispute in the future. I think I've already reached the end of my presentation for today. Please contact us if you have any sort of question to ask and so on. And lastly, I would like to encourage everybody to be connected with our co-partner in Kadin. Kadin is a Chamber of Commerce representing national chambers in Jakarta, as well as we have Mission Diaspora Association, which we call Malaysia Chamber Jakarta. This can be one of the gateway for you to enter Indonesian market. Again, thank you very much, and have a pleasant day ahead. Over to you, Encik Raja.
Thank you very much, Harman, for a very good presentation and very informative information on the prospect of the Indonesian market, and also the areas where the growth sectors where the companies should focus on. A market like Indonesia is a big market, but it's a lot of challenges as well. Bureaucratic challenges, registration challenges, and also it's a huge market, so different provinces have different tastes and different regulations that you have to counter. So our office in Jakarta and office in HQ will be able to help exporters for information in penetrating the market in Indonesia. So let's move on to the next presenter, Siti Azlina from our office in Manila in Philippines. Another island-based company, geographically similar like Indonesia in terms of number of island-based economy, but the opportunity challenges are different from Indonesia. So over to you, Puan Azlina, on the opportunities in the Philippines market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Encik Raja. Hi, good day everybody, to all our viewers in Malaysia and also colleagues around the globe. First, let me greet all of you once again with Filipino greetings, mabuhay, and mangandang araw sa inyong lahat po. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first take you to the Philippines as a country at a glance. Next slide, please. Yes. So Philippines, as many of you may aware, is an island country with more than 7,000 islands, but it's being broadly categorized under three main geographical regions. And from north to south, it's Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Basically, all the economic activities are centered around Metro Manila, which is located in Luzon, in which Luzon contributed about 73% of total GDP of the Philippines in 2018. While Visayas is the center part of the Philippines, contributed around 40% of GDP, followed by Mindanao, almost similar, 13 to 40% of total GDP. So these three regional islands, they have their own metro cities. So in Luzon, Metro Manila is the most populated area, and that this has actually caused problems in terms of population density and also travel and also really bad traffic movement in the Luzon area. And in Visayas, the metro city is called Cebu. This is where the major airports and ports are located, and in Mindanao, it's Davao City. So basically, Philippines has a total population of about 108 population, and about 10% of the population are Muslim. It's a Christian-dominated country, but 10% of Muslim population mostly are centered around the Mindanao Island, but many of them has actually moved out to Metro Manila because of the economic activity happening in the area. So about approximately 2.2 million Filipinos are working abroad, or what we term as OFW, which stands for Overseas Foreign Workers, and they play such an important role in the economic development because they remit a lot of money to their family back in the Philippines, and this helps to spur the domestic consumption. Well, in terms of the current presidency, it's a President Duterte. He's almost finishing his term in another 2 years. The reason why I say this, but we might see, changes of some of the government policy after 2022 election taking place. All right, next slide, please. Well, briefly, we go through now the Malaysian-Philippines bilateral trade for the past decade. Malaysia has been enjoy surplus with its trade with Philippines of about 2.2 US dollars billion last year, and Philippines is our 15th largest trading partner and 5th within ASEAN. Main products that we export to the Philippines include electrical and electronics, petroleum products, chemicals, palm oil, iron and steel, among others. While we buy from the Philippines almost 60% electrical products, machinery equipment, and processed food. As mentioned by Encik Raja just now, under the ATIGA or ASEAN Trade in Goods and Services Agreement, ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, about almost all products exported into the Philippines from Malaysia are free from import tariff. Next, please. Okay, this slide is basically to give you an overview of Malaysia investment in the Philippines. Overall, our investment cover various sectors such as banking. We have two big banks, Maybank and CIMB here. CIMB just established late 2018, and their modus operandi is purely on digital banking, while Maybank is having a physical setup, about 74 branches throughout all Philippine islands. All right, we also have investments in construction. We have big names like MTD, who has actually constructed an iconic project for Philippines, which is the SEA Game Complex. So maybe some of you have saw it on TV during the previous SEA Game in November, where the stadium or the complex has actually hosted the closing ceremony of SEA Game 2019. So that was constructed by MTD Alloy, MTD Group. So we also have Akasis, which is in housing development and also hospitality. And we have also companies like White House in building material and so on. And newcomers are basically EDOTCO and RT Telecom. They are now constructing a common tower for telecommunication. And for ICT, we have quite a a chunk of Malaysian companies operating here to service their clients, the likes of GHL, IP88, StoreHub, SecureMetrics. So it cut across all the sub-segments between ICT, such as security, e-payment, e-gateway, and so on. All right, for retail, we have Mr. DIY and also IB.com. Agriculture are being represented by Leong Hub. Basically, they do poultry here, poultry farming, and also other sectors are like Polymer Inc., who are doing manufacturing in resins manufacturing, and the big names like Petronas and Metro Parking are also present here. So basically, for the first quarter of this year, the approved investment reported by the 6th Investment Promotion Agency of the Philippines is valued at 12.9 million US dollars. Next slide, please. All right, so this is basically the Philippine current market condition. Philippines has been in lockdown due to COVID since March 16. And until today, we are still in various degree of lockdown restriction. The government basically in August has actually put Metro Manila back into the more stringent quarantine, which has actually halted many economic sectors. And we only opened up the economic sectors for the past 2 weeks, so we can see more sectors are opening up. Retail, construction, they are starting to gain momentum after months of closure. So as a result of that, we can see the second quarter GDP of the Philippines has actually dipped to the lowest points in 1981 to 16.1%. And the government is forecasting that by end of this year, the 2020 GDP will be around minus 4.5% to 6.6% contraction. Because of COVID also, we have seen a lot of unemployment. As of July, more than 4 million Filipinos are out of job. Inflation are quite stable at 2.4% in August. And Philippines still struggling in terms of trade. It recorded trade deficit of 1.3 billion in June 2020. Next slide, please. All right, this is basically a summary of a research done by ASEAN Development Bank, who's headquartered in Manila. They have published this study, current COVID-19, its impact on businesses in July recently. So what I want to point out is that among all many sectors that are impacted because of COVID, the most affected sectors are wholesale and retail because malls are closed. And then accommodation and hospitality, as well as food service. But after a few months and weeks, people try to adjust to the new normal. More food service cooperate with Food Panda, with Grab, and they go for online and take-out order. All right. As we know, ADB is one of the big funders to the government of the Philippines. So as of now, ADB has actually funded more than 1.7 billion US dollars to help the Philippine government combating pandemic, and that is in form of either loans, grants, to help the government in various projects combating COVID-19. And until now, the border of the Philippines are still closed to foreigners. They are actually accepting their OFW coming back who will retrench abroad. In terms of COVID cases, we still see a lot of cases. Up until yesterday, there are more than 200 confirmed COVID cases, with daily cases average around 2,000 to 3,000 per day. But the government recently has actually announced that their R0 has decreased to 0.94%, which indicate that they have managed to slightly flatten the curve. Next, please. All right. We go to the understanding the market challenges and opportunities in the Philippines. So the domestic market of the Philippines is huge, thanks to its huge population of 108 million people. However, one need to understand what are the challenges behind that. First, Philippines, like Indonesia just now, it's a very bureaucratic country. Um, Back according to the World Bank report 2020 on ease of doing business, Philippines are ranked at 95 out of 194 countries being observed in the report. And however, back in 2018, the government has actually set up a new agency called ARTA, Anti-Red Tape Agency, to look into the bureaucracy issue, simplifying processes, and cut off these red tapes and bureaucracy within the public sectors. So hopefully we will be seeing a lot of improvement in terms of in terms of dealing with the government sector in the Philippines. And the government also is being seen to have do a lot of things to improve their delivery to the public and businesses. Um, Philippine market, though is large and a very consumer-based market, it's a price-sensitive market. So if you are into FMCG, fast-moving consumer product, determining your selling price is very crucial. You need to input in, many factors. Please bear in mind that Philippines charge VAT at 12% on most of the products. And though imports into the Philippines are mostly free of tariff, but other charges like VAT are still applicable. And also please take note that logistic-wise, within inter-island is pretty expensive. To quote or to give you an idea, if we were to buy something through Lazada, for instance, a cost from China would be around 7 ringgit. Yeah? That 7 ringgit. But if I were to buy something from the other islands, say Mindanao, it would cost double than buying from China. So logistic remain an issue here because of not the industry is not really well connected and developed. And because of the current pandemic, the country now is basically in the technical recession. A lot of expansion projects are being put in hold because companies are focusing more into business sustainability. However, on the positive side, as Indonesian market, Philippines is also a young millennial tech-savvy market. So a lot of advertisement of products and services are being done through social media or appointment of brand ambassadors. And as you can see, internet penetration here is about 67% or 73 million of the total population. And also the local manufacturing activities is still limited. So if you were to look into investment side, this could be a country that you can actually check on. It could be your choice of investment, next investment. The government is very much trying hard to attract foreign investment, especially in the manufacturing sector. And again, it's a consumer-based market, very much dependent on domestic consumption, private investment and consumption, and that is because it's fueled by the remittances by the overseas foreign workers. Next, please. A little bit on the e-commerce market. As I mentioned before, the penetration of internet is about 73 million internet users. So out of these 73 million internet users, 76% of them are making online purchases. So imagine, you cannot omit selling your products on the e-marketplaces because of the increasing number of the online purchase by the internet user. So, all right, and then of course the major e-marketplaces are like Lazada, Shopee, not forgetting the locals one like Argo Mall. Okay, next please. So among the key growing sectors is ICT services, and that is basically after the President Duterte set up Department of ICT back in 2016, looking to innovate the government agencies, reducing physical paper submission, manual processing. And this is coupled by the urban millennial tech-savvy society. So within the ICT, the subsectors that pose opportunities are in cybersecurity, SaaS or software as solutions, basically to feed the BPO or the business processing industry, which is the biggest consumer of SaaS, valued at 24 US billion in 2018, and also digitalization. Basically, ARTA or the Anti-Red Tape Bureau is looking into integrating various agencies like the Custom Department and the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and so on. All right, next is construction and building materials. Philippines has actually launched last year their construction industry roadmap, basically to increase the contribution of construction industry to the GDP of the Philippines to 130 trillion peso by 2030. And under this focus, the government has actually announced back in 2016 build projects, which will go through until 2025, which enlisted about 74 flagship projects aimed to improve the connectivity and mobility within Philippines and its island. So among the projects are those projects supervised by Department of Transport, which include rail projects, monorail, underground metro projects, and also modernization of the existing lines, and then projects under the Public Works and Highway, which will include construction of new roads in the rural area, and also highways within the Metro Manila and the northern part of Luzon, and also construction of new airports and the new government city. So at the moment, all different departments or ministry in the Philippines are scattered within Metro Manila. So they would eye to have something like Putrajaya, which is located north of Metro Manila, about 60 kilometers away in New Clark City. And also, and this has actually drive demand for building materials and also engineering-based services in the related subsectors. Yeah, next please. And the next sector would be food and beverages. So of course, with 108 population, the domestic manufacturing facilities will not be able to feed everybody. But from the COVID pandemic, what we can see is that a lot of demand coming up from ready-to-eat food, ready-to-cook food, and also health and functional food. So we contacted one of the Malaysian companies who are actually distributing health food, and he said for the throughout the duration of quarantine since March, his company has not reported any losses or any problem, because demand for their functional food and health products are growing. So this would be some areas that company has to look into. But again, please pay attention into the labeling, the packaging that of preference to Philippines. Philippines is known to be a sachet society, where food products must be packaged differently in small sizes to the big one. The biggest would be 1 kilo, the smallest would be like 13 grams, and so on. And all food products entering Philippines must be registered through their FDA. All right, next. All right, this is just a snapshot of matric programs that we undertook last year. We went to Davao City, Mindanao. We had more than 30 companies with us, and we always be at World Banks. It's the Philippine largest construction and building material exhibition. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Once again, maraming salamat. Thank you very much. Over to you, Cik Raja.
Thank you very much, Puan Siti Azlida, our Trade Commissioner in Manila, Philippines. Thank you for sharing the perspective and opportunities in Philippines. If you can see differences between Indonesia and Philippines, the regulations are different, the challenges are different. But Philippines is a smaller market. Our trade with Philippines is still small compared to our trade with other ASEAN countries because of the furthest eastern side of the region. But as you can see, the growth in Philippines is driven by construction, ICT, and so on. So there will be a lot of opportunities for our Malaysian companies to go there for the next few years. So I would like to move on to our next presenter from Ho Chi Minh City. Our presenter, Mr. Rafi, based in Vietnam. He was speaking about one of the fastest growing economy in ASEAN, Vietnam, and he will be talking about the opportunities over there and as well the challenges that exporters may have to face during this exporting into these countries. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rafi.
Terima kasih Cik Raja. Taliah hayat saya bermuda. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning everyone. My name is Rafi. Xin chào, tôi là Rafi. I'm the Trade Commissioner for Ho Chi Minh City, covering 3 countries, Vietnam, Cambodia and also Laos. Today, I'm only focused to one country, which is Vietnam. So my topic today is doing business in Vietnam. What exporters should know. Okay, let me give an overview about this country. The total land size for Vietnam is almost equal to Malaysia, but the population for Vietnam is 3 times higher than Malaysia, which is 98 million. They have 58 provinces in Vietnam, and also there's 5 major cities in Vietnam, which is excluded from the provinces, which is Hanoi is more to administrative, Ho Chi Minh City on the business side, Hai Phong for industrial, Da Nang for port, and also Can Tho for agriculture. In terms of economy, GDP for Vietnam recorded for 2019 recorded at 261.92 billion, while the GDPs for last 2 years above 7%, which is last year recorded at 7.02%. For the first 6 months in this year, we can see that the economies of Vietnam still recorded a positive GDP, which is 1.81%. The inflation and also unemployment stand at 3.5%. In terms of the total trade, for this 6 months, for the first 6 months or half of the year, is recorded at 7.77 billion. Our export exceed import 5.02 over 2.75, and the trade balance is 2.27. Okay, in terms of trade and investment, Vietnam stands as our 11th trading partner, and the export destination is number 9. Our source of import is number 12. Vietnam contribute to 3% of Malaysia total trade, and this is our major export and major import. Just to give you some idea, which is eNED, petroleum, chemical and chemical product, manufacturer of metal and machine and equipment and parts, whilst major import is eNED, iron and steel, textile, apparel and footwear, rice, and also non-metallic mineral product. In terms of foreign direct investment, Malaysia are the 8th largest FDI investor in Vietnam, with a registered capital of 12.74 billion, and the numbers of projects stand at 628. Okay, this is some of the opportunities or potential sector that we have in Vietnam. First is F&B. Number 2 is the beauty and personal care and pharmaceutical, machinery and equipment, and also automotive part and component. Whilst for services is renewable energy, transportation, and also franchise. After the post-COVID-19, the government of Vietnam already highlighted that they are going to focus to all these 6 sectors, namely electronic, food processing, agriculture, textile, footwear, and seafood. Okay, let me relate with the current situation, which is on the COVID-19 impact on the economy. The total cases recorded until yesterday is 1,049, and the total death is 35, whilst the total recovery stand at 854 or 81.4%. The GDP, as I said earlier, is 1.81% for Jan to June, which is Vietnam is one of the first market in this region to ease the lockdown restriction, and among the countries that still recorded a positive GDP. And it is forecasted that the GDP will grow for 3 to 4% for 2020. And among the industry that badly affected is textile and apparel, tourism, and also tourism. Okay, to give you some idea, effective from the 1st August of 2020, Vietnam has entered into a new FTA, which is EU Vietnam FTA and EVIPA, European Vietnam Investment Protection Agreement. This will boost the economy, and after the signing, after the FTA taking into effect, 71% of the duties has been eliminated and 65% duties have been eliminated from EU to Vietnam. Okay, let me focus on the three main sectors that I will highlight by today, which is the first one is F&B, secondly on the beauty and personal care, and the third thing is a pharmaceutical. I think this will give you some idea about what are the opportunities offers to Malaysian exporter into this market. For F&B, the revenue stand at 200 billion for 2019, and it has been forecasted that the revenue for F&B will increase to double up to 408 billion for 2023. The breakdown is 430 small shop, 80,000 restaurant, 22 coffee shop and bars, and 7,000 fast food restaurant. Sadly to say, whoever that already familiar with Malaysian Street or Nguyen Anin Street, which is near to the Bentan, now all the shop in Bentan market, in Nguyen Anin or Malaysian Street already closed because of this COVID, because they don't receive any customer. To put on record, before COVID, we have 13 daily flight from Malaysia to Ho Chi Minh City, with a breakdown of 11 from Kuala Lumpur, 1 from JB and 1 from Penang, and now stand at 0. So because of that, this industry have badly affected in Ho Chi Minh City. But we can see there's a lot of trade still growing, and then there are a lot of demand for pre-packed food, ready to eat, ready to drink, ready to cook, and also organic food. We receive a lot of inquiries from a distributor here who are still looking and sourcing from product from Malaysia. And then for the COVID-19, they can see that because of we have a limited restaurant for us to go to have a dine-in, so most of the activities are through online delivery. And a lot of new dishes, new cuisine have been offered by the online player. This is the 5 major online platform that are available in Vietnam, namely GrabFood, NowFood, Baymin, GoFood, and Lokyo. For the market entry and requirement, they require sampling and testing for every single product that are going that have a potential to enter into this market, and certificate of conformity as HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, GMP, and GHP is a must. For further information about this, you can refer to the website here, which is from Vietnam Food Administrative Ministry of Health, MOH, and also Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Okay, let's move on to potential sector for beauty and personal care.
Okay, Vietnam. Okay, for everyone's information, I was being alerted that our connection with our office in Ho Chi Minh City has been disconnected. They're trying to fix the line right now, but while they're working on fixing the technical problem.
Okay, can we continue?
Okay, we are back online again.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Rafi, please go ahead. Thank you very much. Okay, Rafi, please go ahead. Continue, please.
Can hear, eh?
Okay, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay,
ahead,
thank you, Cik Raja. Sorry. Okay, let's go through the beauty and personal care. The proportion is 90% for foreign brand and 10% is for the local brand. Most of the consumer here really like a product similar like a Korea or Japan product. The other player is Korea, US, Japan and EU. The most of the product produced in Vietnam mostly have been exported to surrounding or neighboring countries. The demand for the beauty and personal care comprise of skin care, whatever that can have whiten your skin, hair care, hand and body care, baby and child, and green and for the market entry requirement is a must or compulsory for you to have a local legal representation, product registration and specification, labeling and certificate of free sales. And for more information, you can refer to the Drug Administrative of Vietnam, MOH, DAV, and also National Single Window of Vietnam. Let us move on to my third sector, which is pharmaceutical. Pharmaceutical amounted to 17 highest growth in the world for Vietnam market. The import is 2.1 billion, whilst the sales is 6.6 billion. It is forecasted that for next 2 years, the sales will grow into 10.1. The breakdown for this market is 180 drug makers, 224 good manufacturing practice factories, and 57 pharmacies and drug stores. In terms of demand, we can see a lot of demand goes to simple dosage medication, functional food, and high quality generic drugs. And this is all the market entry requirement for pharmaceutical, which is representative office license in Vietnam, drug label, product information in Vietnamese, that is important, brief information on the product and product description and composition. And for more further information, you can refer to Drug Administrative of Vietnam, MOH. Okay, let me give you some idea about the success story of nation company into this market. In terms of banking and finance, Public Bank is the largest foreign bank in Vietnam. They have more than 100 branches. We have CIMB, Hon Yong Bank, Maybank, RHB, and Saigon Berjaya Bank Securities as a player for banking and finance. For real estate, we have Gamuda with successfully that one city called Celadon City, about 25 kilometers away from Ho Chi Minh. We have a Park City doing very well in Hanoi and also with ASEAN. We also have Gamuda and also Pavilion as and also Skyworld as part of the arrangement. Other than that, in terms of manufacturer, we have Kianju, who's doing canning. We have Vivong in Vietnam and A1, which is popular in Johor. We have Anivest, which is Leong Hap. We have Mekong Flour, which is a part of Malayan farming. We have Feniweb, UMW, Glad, and also Petronas, who have a presence here in this market. And for consumer product, we have Tamin, Life, Noraini Cookies, Barrels, Julie's, Kawan, Pacific West, Ekchong, and also our Pops Malaya, Snake Poo, and also Swiss Bear. Okay, what's next for the post-COVID? To give you some idea, what we have in Vietnam with this 98 million of population, we have 150 shopping centers, we have 800 supermarket and 9,000 traditional market with 2.2 million of pop stores. We can see that among the players in Vietnam such as Landmark, Parkson, Vincom, Circle K is like similar like 7-Eleven, the numbers of distribution shop that they have. GDD, Aeon Mall, Mega Market, Winmart, Co-op Mart, and Lotte Mart. Because of this COVID, e-commerce has really played a vital role into this market with this 96 million population. The e-commerce and online sales recorded at 10 billion and B2C sales 35 billion forecasted for 2025, and online 55% of the sales are through online. And in terms of average, we can see that $600 spent by every single person in a year for Vietnam. And the ordering for online sales integrated for e-commerce integrate into online is about 80%. This is a 4 major online platform that we have in Vietnam, which is one, Tiki, secondly is Lazada, third Sendo, and also Shopee. Okay, just to give you some idea, what is our activity before and after COVID? Okay, before COVID, whilst this office has been given a mandate to cover 3 countries, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. So we are actively coordinating event for PM mission in Vietnam, PM mission in Cambodia, and also last year we managed to organize the EAM to Cambodia, Export Acceleration to Cambodia. You can see the result. Until now, I think about 4 or 5 success stories have been recorded after that EAM in Cambodia. We bring them to meet with the local buyers, and then they have a talk, and a lot of companies has start already export to Cambodia. And then we have also activities in Phnom Penh, and we also have an engagement with our embassy in Vietnam, Cambodia, and also Laos. We also received some visit from the student from the university, UITM, UTM, UUM, as part of the arrangement that for them to know more about this market and explore the opportunities about this market. And then we also actively involved into this seminar, workshop, and also interview. For my next slide, I show you that there's a lot of activity. We are visiting the factory, meeting people in the office, outside the office, and also engage with some event organized by MBC. Because of COVID, we have to go online. Same like our session today, we have to go online. And we love how we love and look forward to go back to Malaysia after COVID, after this. We take this opportunity to have a platform, to have a webinar with UUM, Universiti Utara Malaysia. I have also um, video conference with our ambassador, Ambassador Eldin Husaini in Cambodia. We have also have a video conference with our MBC Vietnam, MBC Laos, and MBC Cambodia. And on top of that, because of COVID, the company start talking after we organize this e-Bizmatch. You can see on the screen, we have e-Bizmatch for Dr. Imal Cosmetic and NC Beauty. They start talking about how to penetrate into the market. We can have, I think we arrange more than 40 business meeting, e-Bizmatch, to explore the potential within Malaysian companies and the buyers from Vietnam and also Cambodia, yet to tap about Laos market. Okay, this is a useful contact for all of you, just for your information, to give you some idea. You can contact our strong supporter here for trade, which is Malaysia Business Chambers Vietnam MBC, led by Dato' Tang Behind. This is the website. You can, we have also Vietnam Chambers of Commerce and Industry, BCCI. We have Investment and Trade Promotion Center of Ho Chi Minh City, ITPC. And also, if you are in Malaysia, you can email to this Vietnam Trade Office in Malaysia. I think, yeah, this is my last slide, which is the next slide is follow us on FB, Matrix Ho Chi Minh City. We have our office, you have my email, my deputy email, Mr. Zahiruddin, our marketing officer in Hanoi, which is Miss Chang, and also our marketing officer in Ho Chi Minh City, Mr. Sisavet, and we yet to recruit our marketing officer in Phnom Penh. I think that's all from Ho Chi Minh City. Stay safe, everyone. Over to you, Encik Raja. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rafi. Very informative, very useful information on the market opportunities and the challenges, as well as the opportunities of doing business in Vietnam after post-COVID. Yeah, Vietnam is the rising star of ASEAN. Their growth surpasses all other economies in ASEAN, supported by huge investments from abroad. And you can see the youth, the population is growing, the middle class is growing, and that provides huge opportunities for our exporters to enter the market. So Vietnam is not the same as it was 20 years ago. So it's grown to the point where they are the fastest growing in the region. So our next presenter, move on to the next presenter, will be our Trade Commissioner, Mr. Azhar, from our office in Yangon, Myanmar. This Myanmar, is the last frontier market. Most analysis will say that, but it's a growing market. It has opened up since 2012. A lot of challenges, new rules and regulations, which our Trade Commissioner will share, and also some of the key opportunities for our companies to tap on when they want to export into Myanmar. So over to you, our Trade Commissioner in Yangon, Mr. Azhar.
Thank you, Encik Raja. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In Myanmar, we say Minglarba. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining us at the panel session for Day 2 eNational Export Day. My presentation will cover Myanmar market overview, trade and investment, COVID-19 pandemic conditions, market challenges and opportunities, and sectoral opportunities. Thanks. A brief about this country. Myanmar is a country bordered by Bangladesh, India, China, Laos, and Thailand. Myanmar has 14 states and regions, and it is an ethnically diverse nation with 135 distinct ethnic groups. On the slide, you may see the GDP of Myanmar in 2019, recorded at $66 billion with GDP per capita of $1,608 and a population of 54 million people. The inflation in Myanmar is high as due to price increase of electricity bill and exchange rates. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the GDP forecasted to reach 6.8%, and likewise to many countries, the current pandemic has affected their economic growth. However, good news for Myanmar, it is still a positive growth at 0.5%, while ADB estimated the growth as high as 1.8%. Next, please. The chart basically shows the key cities in Myanmar. By population, Yangon is the highest, followed by Mandalay and Ayeyar Wadi. In terms of GDP per capita, Mandalay is the highest, followed by Yangon and Kachin. To summarize this slide, 40% of the total production live in Yangon, Mandalay and Ayeyar Wadi. 70% of the population is in rural areas, which is higher than the world average. Next, please. China ranked top for major partners, followed by Thailand through the inland border trade advantages, while Singapore the third and Malaysia the ninth. Looking at the imports, Myanmar imports a lot from China, Thailand, Singapore and India. Out of these three countries are bordered with Myanmar, and that clearly indicates Myanmar is importing a lot from border countries. Next, please. Besides Vietnam, Myanmar is also one of the FDI choice in ASEAN. Investors channel just 4.1 billion into Myanmar between October 2018 and September 2019. Government approved foreign direct investment into the country stood at $2.3 billion in the first half of 2019. A 77% improvement from the same period last year when approved FDI came in at $1.3 billion. The largest FDIs flow in from Singapore, followed by China and Thailand. Malaysia is the 8th largest FDI with 71 enterprises present in Myanmar. Next, please. This slide and the next slide is about Malaysian companies in Myanmar, such as Maybank, Mami, BMW, Tanchong Motors, Petronas, and etc., covering various sectors such as services, automotive, F&B, and construction. Next. Mainly, our companies present are in manufacturing sectors, which is with 63%, followed by telecommunication, 23%, ONG, and other sectors represented by bank, legal firm, and ICT. Next, please. Next. I would like now talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and Myanmar's economic condition. The COVID-19 pandemic also hit Myanmar quite badly. In the Region Economy Monitor June 2020, presented by the World Bank, they have summarized the impact through two distinct transmission channels. Firstly, through external channels that include reduced trade in goods and services, reduced remittances, disruption to supply chains, falling commodity prices, and volatile capital flows. Generally, the disruption of manufacturing supply chains around the world has caused industrial production and employment in the manufacturing sector to contact Myanmar, as the country's growing apparel industry is suffering shortage of raw materials from China. The land and border closures on trade routes to China, followed by significant cancellation of orders from Europe, basically widen the trade deficits. Other than that, Myanmar has an estimated of up to 3 million of people living as economic migrants in Thailand. A further of 450,000 live in both Malaysia and Singapore. The remittances from these workers contributes to 53% of their income. The pandemic also incurred suffering to the loss of an important source of income. As mentioned in the previous slides, the actual FDI inflows from Myanmar already lower in the first few months of 2020. And with the pandemic, the investment decisions into Myanmar are likely to be impacted. We have discussed the external transmission channels, and now let us see the domestic transmission channels. To prevent the disease spreading within Myanmar, like many countries do, Myanmar imposed containment measures such as mandatory mobility, curfew, social distancing requirements, and closed the borders to international visitors. Myanmar is currently experiencing the second wave of COVID-19 and daily confirmed cases at 2 to 3 digits. The government announced and imposed on 8 September, which is yesterday, no dine-in is allowed. The local government is operating at 50% workforce to work from home. For international travels, Myanmar still has not opened since the previous measures. Next, please. Next. About the market challenges and opportunities. Complementing the previous slides about COVID-19, there are a few non-market challenges for foreign entry or market access. Here are the challenges for doing business in Myanmar. Firstly, political stability and political development. Myanmar is reported as country race tier 5 country, of which has high levels of economic and political risk and very high levels of financial system risk. The current government is led by the National League for Democracy, or NLD, which controls both houses led by Aung San Suu Kyi. Despite international criticism of human rights abuses, she remains popular domestically. The military still holds substantial political power, but relations between them and the government are stable. Legislative elections are slated for this coming November 2020. On another note, the Ease of Doing Business Index ranks Myanmar 165 out of 190 countries. Essentially, the bureaucracy lacks capacity and is therefore highly inefficient. Secondly, supply of skilled and well-educated workforce. Although the number of skilled workers who pass the National Skills Standards Authority test is increasing every year, the feedbacks from investors mention the shortage of skilled workers remains an obstacle to starting and expanding their businesses. Thirdly, corporate governance. The Myanmar Corporate Governance Scorecard 2018 published that Myanmar firms scored an average of 30% as compared to ASEAN, average of 69% on corporate governance. And lastly, on market challenges, the infrastructure development. The lack of infrastructure is significantly impeding Myanmar's development and reducing Myanmar's attractiveness for foreign investment. Companies are expected to have built even their own electric generator set in some of the areas. On the trade challenges, there are 4 elements. Competition from neighboring countries. Myanmar's trade with foreign countries through border gates has reached over 8.6 billion as of July 2019-2020. For Malaysian products to enter into this market, the cost will be higher and logistically will take longer time to enter Myanmar as compared to Thailand, India, and China. Secondly, the volatility of USD over CHAD, that is the Myanmar currency, exchange rate is very high. Imagine when I first arrived in Yangon last year, the exchange of $100 to CHAD is close to 1,500 CHAD. And as of yesterday, it is close at 1,340 CHAD only. And in between of the months, the CHAD keeps going up and down. This is affecting the international trade, especially those using dollars for trade. The key challenges for trade is international remittances. It was only in 1990 the government of Myanmar re-emitted foreign banks into the country. As of 2019, there are more than 13 licensed banks and 49 representative offices of foreign banks in Myanmar. Maybank is the only licensed corporate banking from Malaysia. Lastly, on the market challenges, the Myanmar Food and Drug Administration issued a testing guideline for food products to be imported into Myanmar that took effect on 29 April 2020. The passing of the test will be required as a condition for new application for renewal of food import recommendation. Next, please. Now I will focus on the sectoral opportunities. Firstly, on the construction and construction materials. Prior to emergence of COVID-19, imports of construction materials were very strong and rising. In terms of market entry, you may refer to notification number 63/2017 as can be seen in the slide. So basically, importing all materials for construction is permissible. The opportunities came from infrastructure projects, of which driving demand for steel products, including rebar, galvanized and colored-coated steel sheet, hot-rolled coil and plate. For housing development, the products such as tiles, electrical pipes and cables, DIY materials and furniture. While in construction services, building management system, energy generation, distribution and supply, fire safety, heating, ventilation and air conditioning are among potential services. Local players such as Shuetong and Max Myanmar Group are among two major companies with many projects development, especially in Yangon. Next, please. The second sectoral opportunity is in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. Total expenditure of healthcare in Myanmar has been increasingly due to better healthcare awareness and rising investment in healthcare facilities such as hospitals and laboratories. On average, CAGR is at 4%. However, the total healthcare expenditure of Myanmar in 2017 is $3.3 billion or $63 per capita, which is slightly higher than Indonesia, but much lower to other ASEAN countries. Under the Union Tax Law, there is a commercial tax exemption for pharmaceutical products and medical devices, on which custom is not supposed to collect any import tax. Potential products are medical devices, pharmaceuticals, protective gears and equipment, healthcare tourism, and hospital development. Among local players, DKSH, as the local players, is also importing medical products from Malaysia. Next, please. Third sectoral opportunity is in retails, recreations, and groceries. The rising medical class and young population presented untapped opportunities, of which the largest subsector consumer spending accounted for 15% on F&B, 7% on personal care and household products, 4% on clothing, while only 1% for eating out. Importation of consumer goods normally subject to FDA and custom procedures. Potential products are FMCG goods related to F&B, personal care, household electrical household, clothing and toiletries with baby products as new segment that Malaysian companies can tap along with the young parents. Just like Malaysia, major international supermarkets are also having their presence here, such as Makro, Aeon and Carrefour. Next, please. Fourth sectoral opportunity is ICT. Under the report by Digital Economy Roadmap, the following are the goals to be achieved by 2020 in Myanmar. Among others, 75% employment rate of ICT graduates, 50% of transaction cashless, and 2 times local digital startup. ICT is not just in the internet, mobile and digitalization usage, but also opportunities in management system related to business, premises, security, cyber, and fintech. To summarize, here are the takeaways for this information from this slide for year 2020. 80% smartphone penetration, 50% unique mobile subscribers, and 105% mobile broadband penetration. Next, please. Last but not least, the e-commerce. I guess it's quite similar to many countries. The e-commerce trade has increased dramatically due to social distancing policy and work from home. For Myanmar, since the social distancing measures implemented, e-commerce spurred by 50% increase in online shopping orders, 60% increase in sales, 50% increase in online payment, and 25% internet data usage. You may find here products that have been sold in the key platforms in Myanmar by RG07, Balolo, and also Shop, mainly on electronic devices, beauty health products, and fashion apparel. Next, please. Next. My final slides will show our activities in 2019-2020, which comprises mid-tier immersion, export acceleration mission, and fact-finding mission before the COVID-19. And few webinars we organized with different agencies and sectors such as MPOC, MOGSS, and construction sectors. We also conduct an EBIS match between many Malaysian companies and Myanmar a few months ago. Next, please. Over here is the Yangon team. Chan is the Assistant Trade Commissioner or First Secretary, and Miskin is the Marketing Officer, while Ton is the Administrative Assistant. With that, I would like to end my presentation. Please feel free to contact us for further information. Thank you for your attention. Over to you, Encik Raja.
Thank you very much, Mr. Azahar from our office in Yangon, Myanmar. Very good information on the opportunities in the frontier market of ASEAN on the far eastern side, on the far western side of ASEAN region. And just now before him, the second presentation was on Philippines on the furthest western side of the region. I think the most common theme that cut across all the markets was about the impact of COVID on the four markets. I think this has impacted negatively on economic growth of the four markets, but COVID has a silver lining, has created new opportunities, especially on e-commerce. Sales has gone up in all the countries, as shared by our 4 trade commissioners, and also services, ITC services also grow from that, but also demand for food, online services, logistics has also grown. So I think it's very important that the Malaysian companies who aspire to go into these markets position yourself properly, and also contact our office in HQ, also our office in ASEAN. We also have 46 offices around the world, and our session tomorrow we also cover other markets like Jeddah, USA, China, and West Asia. And also companies who wish to talk to our trade commissioners can write to them directly, and we also encourage you to participate in our e-biz match, our online business, B2B business session. And also I'd like to take this opportunity to talk to you about the APEC exhibition, which takes place, we're starting this month until December. So you can register with us in APEC, and you can also participate in our all other business meetings together with TC through the APEC platform. So I'd like to move on to our next session. Will be on the Q&A, question and answer session. So the first question coming up on the screen right now is a question for our Trade Commissioner, Mr. Harman, in Jakarta. The question is, exporting to Indonesia, the biggest challenge is to register and maintaining at BPOM, Badan Perubatan Obat dan Makanan, which is something like your FDA or the Ministry of Health here. So the question is, due to frequent change of regulation at BPOM, manufacturers find hard to export consistently. There has been an issue for the last 10 years. So when Indonesia's product export to Malaysia, we open the doors to enter our country. But for Malaysia, we have to register and maintain BPOM, and we halal will soon be compulsory. So the question is how Matrix can provide assistance in these countries in expanding our business relationship. So Mr. Harman, are you online to answer the question?
Terima kasih, Encik Raja, for the question. Just to update, it's to be registered with BPOM is one of the major issues in terms of penetrating Indonesian market. But recently there's a few development going on, because before this, registration BPOM is physical registration, which you have to do it physically, going to the BPOM office and so on. Well, for the last 2 years, it's been really improved in the sense of they're already online. And I think the concern is about for Malaysian company, are they able to hold the BPOM registration? Because before this, if you do the registration, you have to do using your partner in Indonesia, which in the end, the registration will be owned by the registering party in Indonesia. Well, now I think they are quite flexible in that sense. You can trigger the application online, which you can do it from Malaysia. And you are allowed to appoint multiple importers in Indonesia. For example, you have importers in Pulau Jawa, and you have another importers in Sumatra. Both of them are able to hold the registration right. because the reason for BPOM is for them to inspect how you handle the goods, how you do the distribution, and so on. And talking about that, because they're already migrating from physical to online, now it's becoming more efficient in that sense. So from the observation that I'm looking at, even though it takes about 6 months, but it's becoming lesser and lesser. It's due to the effort given by the recent president, Pak Jokowi. They wanted to expedite all the necessary registration just to ensure that business activities can be done seamlessly. And talking about the halal registration and so on, yes, it's been a challenge for us. But just to let you know that we've already embarked into crafting an agreement between Malaysia and Indonesia. And during that process, both parties already agreed. But the problem is now it's about for the president of Indonesia to sign the agreement. They're supposed to take place within this year, but because of COVID, it's being delayed. But talking about the preparation of the local government and so on, I think they're still having issues in terms of coordinating between agencies into halal registration. So actually, there's a certain agency called BPJPH supposed to be the one who spearheaded the effort, but it seems that they're still having an internal issues to be resolved. But from my side, we can able to assist you in terms of doing BPOM and halal registration. We could advise you in terms of doing your own registration because they allow nowadays. And we would like to encourage you to engage with local consultant to assist you in terms of doing registration. We have a pool of companies who are able to facilitate, and mainly are coming from Malaysian companies. Other than we appoint a party from Indonesia, we can seek assistance from our fellow Malaysian importers in Indonesia to do the BPOM registration. I think that's about it, Cik Raja. Thank you very much. I hope I'm able to to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Harman. Yes, it's bureaucracy is quite a big problem in Indonesia, and as I think like Harman said, most have gone online, and of course your partners there will be supporting you in terms of registration in BPOM and the halal. The second question I have on screen right now is for our Trade Commissioner in Philippines, Ms. Azlina. The question is from Muhammad Hairi Muhammad. With Philippines has been affected by COVID, are we experiencing no export, zero export to the country since March? They are experiencing zero export, no export to the country March. Is there any channel for us to help them to get a guide on the market situation there? So, Azlina, are you able to answer this, please?
Right. Thank you, Cik Raja. I understand the question correctly. I would assume that the zero export was due basically to the hiccups in the logistics side. During the first few months of COVID, since lockdown was imposed back in March 16, many of the shipments was delayed, and in fact there were congestion at ports because customers were not able to clear the goods that arrived before the lockdown. So I would say, because of the logistic hiccups and over the past few weeks, the government has actually embarked on digitalization. Now clearance of goods are being done purely online and through e-payment. However, we were informed yesterday by some of our importers that they see still delay in the clearance of cargo, and that at a cost in terms of freight. If I did not answer to the person who asked the question, I would appreciate that to get back to us, so that we can address the issue more concretely.
Okay. Right, thank you very much, Siti, for the answer. I think like any other exporters during the COVID time, there were a lot of hiccups in the logistics. Many goods were not able to go to the port, and when they arrived in the country destination, there were also some hiccups, slow down in clearing the goods at the ports as well in the country destination. So thank you, Siti, for sharing. But Mom Hairi, you can always write to us or to our office in Manila to get more updates on the market situation there. Another question for Mr. Rafi, our Trade Commissioner in Vietnam, is from Mr. Azlan. The question is, what would be the best mode of entry for automotive parts and components into Vietnam. Should we appoint an importer or set up a company there? So he's looking for your advice, Rafi. So can you give your opinions and answers on this?
Thank you, Encik Raja. Thank you, Mr. Azlan, for your question. Entry to automotive part and component in Vietnam. Both. You can have a point that
I think we are experiencing some problem in connecting with Rafi right now. Trying to fix the problem at the moment. Yeah, we seems to have some connecting problem with TC Vietnam. So okay, now it's back online. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, right. Tadi ada problem sikit.
Dua kali kena potong Okay, 80% of the auto part are imported. So there's a lot of potential. That is my first point. Second point, because of for Vietnam, there's two issues. One, for us to get the benefit from a trade war within US and Vietnam, US and China, and there's also issue within Vietnam and China on the 9-dash line in terms of political. So most of the company now are sourcing from other sources or other countries rather than China. So we really have a good opportunities for Malaysian company to start to eyeing for this market. And then for my third point, with the implementation for EV FTA, we can see they will give a zero tax within 7 years onward for the product from the automotive from Vietnam to export into EU. So we can see that the potential of this supply chain. Yeah, and then my last one for Mr. Azlan, feel free to contact me, rafi@matrade.gov.my, to get more information about this market. Over to you, Encik Raja.
Thank you very much, Rafi. As I mentioned just now, Vietnam is a growing market for ASEAN, and they also, embarking on the production of their own car in Vietnam with the help of General Motors in USA, so on. So they are really expanding as one of the largest economy in ASEAN in a few years' time. Waiting for the other questions. We have here a question from Muhammad Rizwan Abdul Rahman for our Trade Commissioner in Yangon, Mr. Azhar. The question is, can TC, Trade Commissioner Myanmar, Mr. Azhar, advise us on the current situation or issues on race currently in Myanmar? Is it still going on? And another question is, how can we tap the business opportunity during this current time? There's two questions. So Azhar, are you online to answer this question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Raja. And thank you to Encik Rizwan for the questions, a very popular question, I believe, nowadays. Letting go the racial issues, which are monitored by many numbers of NGOs present here, these areas are located at northern parts of Myanmar, actually. Despite EU and US have raised a lot of concerns, the politics remain the same. However, for COVID business can operate as usual. More essentials business getting stronger, and some business shifted into online businesses. Matrade Yangon has assisted more than 50 companies during the COVID-19 by arranging B2B business meeting, webinar with topics such as on oil and gas, professional services. We can schedule a business meeting also for business who wish to penetrate into Myanmar. Currently, essential business is still permissible, such as logistic and custom clearance. And for information also, in Yangon we have more than 60 mosques, actually, surprisingly. to all of us. And there's no racial issues in Yangon especially. The only thing happened is only on the northern part of Myanmar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azhar. I hope Mr. Ridwan be able to get an understanding of the current conditions in Myanmar. I think that's not a problem for us to go into Myanmar. These issues on race has basically been addressed properly by the government over there. And I think it's business as usual in Myanmar for all of us for all of us. And the country is growing as normal. Yeah. So we are waiting for a few more questions, I think, coming on the screen. While we wait for the questions, okay, this is another question coming up on the screen. This is from Mr. Faisal Omar for our Trade Commissioner in Yangon, Mr. Azhar. So, is there any possible incentive available for foreign investors who wants to do business or to invest in Myanmar? Azhar, please.
Okay. Thank you, Encik Raja. Basically, there are a few exemption given to any investment, especially if the company wish to invest in the special economic zone. The exemption given are exemption from income tax for the first 7 years of operation, followed by 5 years 50% relief on income tax. And then the other exemption could be depend on the sectors such as manufacturing, housing, retail banking, insurance. It depends on which sector you are in. We will provide you the information in details after this for the question. Thank you, Raja.
Thank you. Yes, and Myanmar has basically introduced new law. The Myanmar Investment Commission is the body in charge of investment. I think in terms of growing an economy, Myanmar wants to get more foreign investment coming to the country. We should have a bit more time for a few questions. It's waiting for the team to put on the screen at the moment. This is another question for our friend, our Trade Commissioner in Jakarta, Mr. Harman. It's from Zulhazmi. The question is through the e-commerce platform, is through the e-commerce platform the best way of entering into the Indonesian market? Harman?
Thank you, Encik Raja, for the question, and thank you for Encik Zulhazmi. Yes, it's true, and no as well. So in that sense, I think we have to look at the overall picture, because if you are talking about penetrating the market first time, e-commerce is the best way for you to enter the market, because it will exclude you from being registered with BPOM, no need for you to register halal, no need for you to be registered with SNI. But in the long term, you have to make yourself presence in Indonesia, because the issue is about taxation. Long-term taxation, if you are talking about dealing through e-commerce, it will roughly cost you about 30% of your expected price for the taxation entering into Indonesia. But if you have your local establishment, you have your importer in Indonesia, then embark into e-commerce, it will reduce the overall cost from 30 to 20%. Yes, e-commerce is one of the major platforms for you to enter the market, but it's the mode of you have to choose the mode, whether to have it physically direct from Malaysia or to have it in Indonesia. E-commerce, I think it's applicable to every country as well because of the COVID issue and so on. It's one of the major driving force for you to further diversify and as well as penetrating the market. And digital marketing is very much important as well. I would like to stress here, it's about your strategy in terms of dealing with e-commerce. And talking about first point of entry, yes, e-commerce is one of the best way for you to introduce yourself into the market. Thank you, Encik Raja.
Thank you very much, Harman. Not only for Indonesia, I think e-commerce is one of the best mode of entry for the other 3 markets as well, and all over ASEAN as well. So during the time of COVID, we can see the growth of e-commerce has expanded exponentially, expanded very big in most of the markets that we cover. So that's, I think we have reached, that was the last question coming out from the team. So before I close the session, I would like to summarize and wrap up some of the key points highlighted by the 4 trade commissioners. The first thing is that there is a common theme cutting across the 4 markets, is that COVID has negatively impacted the economic growth of the 4 markets. But despite COVID, there is a lot of opportunities coming out of this, especially on the ICT services. You can see the information shared by our 4 trade commissioners on technology. ICT has been one of the growing sectors. More and more investment are going into online, e-commerce as well. More and more consumers are buying online to save themselves from going to the shop. So the shift from brick and mortar on retail has now shifted to doing business online for most of the purchases. And one of the biggest impact was on retail. Retail has badly affected in most of the economies in the 4 markets that we covered today. But we can see growth on other sectors like logistics. Logistics has grown to support e-commerce and online business. And also countries like Philippines, they are still expanding dia punya industry, dia punya sectors like construction and services. They have their plans, economic development plans. So there is another opportunity for us to export building materials and services over in the Philippines. Indonesia, they have the long-term development plan to develop logistics and also potentially exports or our participation in projects in the new capital in Kalimantan. For Vietnam, it's a rising star of ASEAN. They signed FTA with EU, but that creates more business opportunities for us to supply into the market. For example, automotive parts, food, ICT, and pharmaceuticals and so on. And lastly, Myanmar is a growing market. Challenges of doing business will be regulations and so on, but more and more companies are also investing in Myanmar. So in summary, there will be a lot of opportunities in ASEAN. It is still our largest export market for Malaysia. Of course, we have to go through the bureaucracy, the challenges of administration, the challenges of logistics and so on. But Matrade here in KL as well in offices around the world, we are ready to help all the exporters to go into the markets. We'll be here to help you in terms of regulations, provide the information on the market opportunities, as well as some tips on doing business in the 4 countries and all over the world. So again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Matrade and the 4 trade commissioners in ASEAN for your participation in this session, for joining us online, wherever you are in Malaysia, all over the world, and I hope you have benefited from all the sharing session and the session that the 4 commissioners has presented today. So once again, thank you very much, and don't forget to register yourself in the APEC exhibition website for all of you to join us in the next activities in our virtual exhibition, e-Bizmatch, and other features under the APEC exhibition website. So thank you once again for joining us. I wish you all the best, and don't forget to write to us if you have any problems, if you have any information to export into ASEAN. Thank you very much.